Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV on Redmen Plus. This is our new player rankings show. We listen to all the feedback. We listen to all you guys, what you liked, what you didn't like post-game on shows. All you wonderful Redmen Plus subscribers. We heard that we do instant match reaction, then we do final word, and maybe they're all a little bit too similar, and we want to do something a little bit different. So we've combined our old YouTube show with this current show. So I'm Ste Errol. Over at the board, we have Errol. And on this show, we are going to do the player rankings for each of Liverpool's stars. Maybe not so much in today's Community Shield penalty loss to Crystal Palace. How this one works, we have been asking on Twitter for votes for every single player. Would you put them as boss? Errol's going to point them out. Errol, boss. If they're up there, they've had a worldie. Sound, bit less. We've added a new category because we were told that the gap between sound and your messing was too harsh to drop one to the other. So we've added in decent, which is better than your messing, but not as good as sound. And then your messing, they add an absolute howler. So let's get on then. Yeah, let's get on with the ranking show. We're not going to do this in any particular order, really, in terms of goalie to strikers. We're going to go through it and maybe talk about the biggest talking points first. Maybe try and finish on a positive, because I never like leaving shows on negatives. I always feel like people are getting the raw end of it. So let's start with, unfortunately, some of Liverpool's worst ranked players, according to the over 1,500 people or whatever who voted so far. And we're going to start with Liverpool's captain, Virgil van Dijk. According to the Redmen TV viewers, social media followers, 51.6% of yous decided that Virgil van Dijk was in the "you're messing" category. And Errol, Liverpool's skipper, not a huge surprise really, because gives the penalty away for the first goal, doesn't cover himself in glory for the second. So yeah, Virgil, you're messing. Hopefully it's the one of very few times he's in there, but it's hard to argue with that vote, really.
I mean, it is hard to argue it, but it just doesn't feel right starting the season and giving the skipper, guy who's just signed a new 2-year deal at the club, and ranking him straight in the messing. He is one of the lead. When I say the one, he's a captain for a reason. He is the leader that's kind of just born into his game. But I don't think in terms of how he performed with any of those goals really gave us any real confidence today to say that Virgil was playing at his best. The penalty in particular, very sloppy, a little bit lazy. It's not usually like him to just kind of leave a dangle of foot in really at the edge of the box. He's usually a little bit more composed than that. So it was disappointing to see that Virgil drop the ball there. And then again for the second goal, I don't think he's initially at fault, but I think everybody's geared up to spring the attack and go straight into that transition. And as soon as Liverpool lose the ball, really in that midfield area, again losing the ball sloppily, it goes straight back through. And then as soon as he's played in, Virgil's out of position. They're all over the place, that Liverpool back line. And again, I think in terms of his commanding and organising that defence, it could have been a lot better for me personally. So I'm hard pressed to find a case to argue against. Virgil didn't really do too much in terms of the corners either. We didn't really overly pepper the goal in terms of set plays and use the height advantage that we've got there. So there was no offensive real threat from Virgil in that first half or in the course of the game. Doesn't take a penalty, but I think he knows he's probably played under his usual high standards. And again, starting from the bottom, he's got a long way to go over the next course of the season if he wants to work his way up the rankings. But I think he would have liked to have had a better start, that's
Absolutely.
for sure.
Very quick one on Virgil, maybe before we move on to the next one. Surprised he never took a penalty, like I say. I saw a few on social media, or maybe he takes one over Elliott. Now, Elliott is an attacking midfielder / forward, and Van Dijk's a centre-back, but we have seen him score penalties at Wembley before, but maybe sometimes if a player has a bad game, they don't fancy it. I don't know, but that's the only other thing I've noticed, that there was a few people having a little pop, maybe he should have took a penalty.
I mean, there's now hindsight's great. Yeah, we could have said, put him in instead of Elliott, but I think at the time, that 5 was the one that me and you had sat there on the show while we was doing the watch-along and said they would have been the first 5 players that we named. So I would have hoped that we wouldn't have had to drag it into sudden death, and, Palace didn't even take it that far. Fair play to Palace as well. I think probably worth mentioning that, fair play to Palace and how well they performed. But in terms of Virgil van Dijk, I'm not overly shocked that he didn't take a penalty, to be honest.
Right then, I think I agree. Let's talk then about Mohamed Salah. I hope that this very rarely happens over the course of the season, because it very rarely did last year. Virgil van Dijk being in your messing, and even more people voted for Mohamed Salah as your messing. 67% of the voters said Mo Salah was your mess. I mean, 1.3 called him boss. I'd like to know what game they watched. 3.8 said he was sound. 27 said decent. 27.9 said decent, rather. 67% of voters, give or take, said Mohamed Salah, you're messing. He hardly got a kick in the first half. I don't know if that's his fault, Errol. It was the way the game played. Liverpool certainly looked an attacking threat without him. Saw a little bit more of him in the second half, not too much. And then had an absolute stinker of a penalty. So yeah, Mo Salah, it's hard to argue again with what the people have voted for, mate.
Yeah, I've got no qualms with the fact that people basically put Salah in your messing, because if it wasn't your messing, it was your ghosting, because he just wasn't there. He was a non-entity for large parts, especially in that first half. I think he worked out at one point in time as we was approaching half time. He'd only had 6 touches of the ball. He looked very ineffective. He didn't look like he was really in the game. I think Liverpool leaned heavily into that left-hand side in terms of building up attacks in that first half, which we was fine with because it was bearing fruit. We seen Ekatike, volleying Vert, popping passes off to one another. Obviously, that's how we get the first goal as well. But at no point in time did Salah decide, okay, I've really been out of the game for the best part of 15, 20 minutes. How can I get involved? How can I get stuck in a little bit? And I think in the second half, he comes out, the blocks trying that a little bit more. However, it really just doesn't click for him, and he really struggles to find his groove. There was a few opportunities later on in the second half, but again, he fluffs his lines. He has a tame shot. He doesn't really get the better of his fullback. There was nothing that really stood out for me in Salah's performance today for any of the right reasons. He was hitting a lot of bum notes, and I've sat there now and I'm thinking about it. It's far too soon to say is this a sign of things to come, but it is a concern to me that somebody who has been as good as he's been for so long, Mohamed Salah, if we're not getting the best out of his game, or if we're not playing to his strengths, which I don't think on the whole we did a lot today, it's going to impact his ability to give us that level of output that he's given us season on season. And I think that's the worry for me at this moment in time. Can we give him the support and the service for him to flourish and do exactly what we've been needing him to do? I don't think we're in a position where he needs to carry this Liverpool side yet. I think we've got enough talent. I mean, I know there'll probably be a couple more signings wanted by a lot of the fan base, but I think we've got enough to say that we're not going to really overly need him to be the only person to drag us out of games. But when you're in the game, lads, you've got to be involved. You've got to be shown for plays. You've got to be wanting to find the passes and link up with your teammates. And there was just none of that from Salah's game today. So, and then again, mate, I'm talking about the in-game. Let me talk about the penalty. The penalty in itself, that was disgusting. Me and you, Steve, we both sat there and said, stay away from the Panenka. Just leave that. You didn't execute it. Bin that. He changes his run up again. And I don't know what it is. You think, yeah, left foot, you favour him. All you've got to do is send the keeper the wrong way. And he blasts it over the bar. For me, it's the tone that it sets for the rest of the lads in terms of a penalty shootout. The mentality just switches straight away, gives the Fallas-Pans belief that these Liverpool players don't want it. They're not up for this penalty shootout, and we can take them to the cleaners. And I think Salah really let his side down today because we expected him to be the first one up. That's 2 penalties in the space of a week that he's missed. If he wants to remain Liverpool's penalty taker into this season, he has to start finding the back of the net for me, Steve.
And also, Errol, he's not just missed them. He hasn't just missed them, mate. He's spun over the bar. And the one in the midweek, yeah, he tried to Panenka. It was all fun and games. Today, he changes his run-up. He gets away from the usual, he usually does the side shuffle and the run-up. He's changed that. And he's blammed it over the bar. Like then, Salah's record is excellent. He scored around 85% of his penalty. I think, looking here on LFC history before, it was around, he scored like 44 of 52, something like that. He might have changed that today, of course. But yeah, I mean, they're bad ones. I wonder, the only problem is the lad who you'd say is next in line taking missed as well, but just definitely something there for Salah. I don't know if he gets it in his own head, but I'm surprised he changes the run-up. Your penalty process should be your penalty process.
I agree. I think it should have been, and I think he doubted himself, and that doubt has just really fed into the fact that he executes another penalty a couple of days later, just as bad as his first one in the start of the week. For me, I think he knows. And again, look at the two here. Both of these lads are in your messing, are both lads that stuck around with this club into this season. Both signed big contracts, and both know the first curtain raiser for the season, they've massively underperformed. They are their biggest critics, though. We can sit here as fans and criticise moments within the game, but these lads will beat themselves up because they are competitive. They want to win from the off, and there was a chance for them to win today. Liverpool couldn't see out the game, couldn't kill off the game either. And in terms of seeing out the game, you expect the leadership from Van Dijk. In terms of killing off a game, you expect that in those moments, especially in a game where Salah's not heavily involved in build-up, there were a couple of moments that you can rely on for him to just pop up and deliver you the goods. And today, both of those players fell way short of that mark for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Liverpool's senior captain, maybe vice captain, haven't been official yet or whatever. One of the senior players, like I say, signed the contract. Both of them actually had poor games today, and that's listen. In the future, if Van Dijk and Salah both don't play well, there's a very good chance Liverpool aren't going to win many games. So hopefully, again, pre-season, Van Dijk missed the last game. Maybe we just all roll on to Friday, and hopefully it improves. But you are right, Liverpool will be expecting much better from those two going forwards.